You've been crushing it in the gym, your numbers have gone up slightly, but you have questions for yourself, such as, why am I not gaining muscle? You think to yourself, why am I spending all this time in the gym, busting my ass off, perfecting my programming, but my body just isn't quite where it needs to be. My dream physique just feels far away. Whether you're trying to burn fat and maintain all the muscle you have, whether you're trying to gain muscle while maintaining a somewhat lean physique, or if you're trying to maintain your body weight and gain strength, I can basically guarantee you that your protein intake is inadequate. In this video, I'll be going over why your protein intake is important. I'm going to be giving you multiple reasons why your protein intake needs to be elevated from what it is now, and I'll show you what's holding you back with your lack of protein intake. Number one, protein has both muscle sparing effects and has the largest potential for muscle accumulation. What this means is two major things. Number one, for fat loss, if you are trying to lose fat and you've been on a diet and been successful before, if you have an appreciable amount of muscle, it can be very, very difficult to hold on to that lean mass while you diet down. Your number one weapon to fight against that with your diet is going to be your protein intake. No matter what diet you're doing, whether it's a fat loss, whether it's a muscle gain, whether it's maintenance, basically your protein intake should always be the highest when you're doing a fat loss diet. And the reason is the muscle sparing effects of protein. So when we're losing weight, we want to try to maintain as much of that weight loss being towards the fat end of the spectrum compared to a little bit of fat and a little bit of muscle. If I put you on a diet, say a crash diet of 800 calories, I can basically guarantee you're going to lose weight. Anyone will lose weight basically, unless unless you weigh 20 pounds. But the quality of weight loss isn't going to be probably up to your standards, especially if you've put in a lot of work at the gym and you've gained a ton of muscle and you lose a bunch of weight and you're just like, oh man, like this is great that I've lost a bunch of weight, but I kind of feel like a coat hanger now when I wear a t-shirt. So when we're losing weight, we want to make sure that our protein intake is sky high so that we can maintain as much lean mass as humanly possible. And then clearly, if we're gaining weight, we want to make sure that we're not just gaining fat, we're gaining muscle. Muscle is made of protein, which is broken down into amino acids. So that's what we digest as amino acids. So we want to make sure that we have the amino acids and the building blocks of muscle in order to build that muscle as we gain weight, and we're not just piling on fat. So that's why you want a protein intake while you're trying to gain weight. So number two, protein is the most expensive macronutrient to digest, meaning you burn more calories digesting it when you compare it to either carbohydrates or fats. So what this also means is when we are on, especially this is important for fat loss diets, if you were to say have 1,000 calories of protein versus 1,000 calories of carbohydrates versus 1,000 calories of fat, you're going to be burning the most amount of calories digesting the protein when compared to the carbohydrates or fat. So not only are you going to have the muscle sparing effects of the protein, but you're also literally speeding up your metabolism, meaning you're able to lose weight faster and maintain your muscle more efficiently. The third reason you need to increase your protein intake is because it offers the most amount of satiety when compared to carbohydrates and fats, and it increases your performance in the gym. So in terms of satiety, there's a lot of research that shows that when you compare it to carbohydrates or fats, protein is just higher on a scale of making you feel full or making you feel less hungry sooner. This is an area where I personally feel there's a lot of subjectivity. For instance, for me, like I can eat a baked potato and that'll keep me full for a long time. Whereas, maybe if I have a protein bar, which is chock full of protein, it's basically a chocolate bar and I'm hungry in an hour. And yet that protein bar will probably have just as many calories as the potatoes that I'm eating, and it'll have way more protein. So what that means for me is that certain proteins give me a lot of satiety over other proteins and over other macronutrient groups. So my suggestion for most people is take a look at what your regular diet is composed of. Make a list of all the proteins that you eat, then write a number. Simply make it say 1 to 5, 1 being doesn't satisfy your hunger at all, 5 being it satisfies your hunger more than anything else, and just make a list, write the numbers right next to it, find what makes you the most full. And especially if you're on a fat loss diet, you want to be shifting most of your protein intake to those foods that are going to make you the most full. Because once you plateau, or once your fat loss stops, or you've lost a significant amount of weight and you want to keep losing weight, hunger is really going to become an issue, and you're going to want to address that by eating foods that make you full. And what makes you full might not be the same thing that makes me full. So this is kind of a subjective issue that everyone needs to look at on their own. Now for protein and performance, I've essentially covered that all through what I've already said, but basically protein makes it so that we can keep as much muscle as possible. So when we're talking about an athletic event, or in what I'm basically talking about is usually going to be strength training, because I want my people following me and my clients to be killing it in the gym. That means that I don't want them to be losing muscle. I want them to have as much muscle as they can, or be adding muscle. This is going to help with them progressing through their program. This is going to help with them getting their results faster. And if you're able to progressively increase the amounts of weights that you're using in the gym in some sort of smart way, you are going to reach your goal quicker, and you are going to be a lot happier with your results, because you're actually going to get results. So having that higher protein intake is very, very important. You definitely don't want to be losing lean mass, and like I said earlier, your number one weapon to fight that issue is by increasing your protein intake. Now you have a multitude of reasons to increase your protein intake. You got some homework to do. I want you to list your proteins that you consume on a regular basis and give those a score of 1 to 5 and find out what fills you up the most. And now you can use those when you're on a fat loss diet. And conversely, if you're on a bulking diet and you're finding it harder and harder to actually take in more protein or take in more food, and you want to find foods that maybe don't fill you up as much but still have a higher calorie intake, you can take numbers that are lower on that. So you can try and find the ones that are you scored as a 1 or 2, and those are the types of foods you can add, because you know you can eat them without getting that really full feeling. And when you're trying to gain and you're constantly full, it can be a bit taxing and not that fun. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. If you did, I would really appreciate you hitting that like button below. It helps me out a lot. If you like these types of videos, I got a lot more coming to you in the future. Hit that subscribe button, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon. Peace.